All right, everybody. Well, we're going to go on and get started. Thank you all for coming and spending your time to be here with us. I really appreciate it. We've got a couple logged in online, so please use your speaking voice so that they can hear it. And like I said, we are going to be recording this for any of the classmates who are not able to join us today. And so what I'd like to do is start by having you all introduce yourselves. Briefly tell a little bit of background about your progression in healthcare administration or the things that you did outside of healthcare that got you here. So I think those are kind of tied together fairly often. And then I'll introduce all of our faculty that are in the room. We'll go from there. Brittany, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Brittany Wright. I graduated in 2013. I was an online student, majored in healthcare and then minored in business. And right out of college, I started working at a bank, just trying to find something to go into the healthcare field. And then I started working at an oral surgery office in Bardstown, which is about an hour from here. We're a really small town. But I started working there as the front desk. And then after about 5 months, the doctor came to me and asked if I would be interested in moving to the office manager position because the current manager was leaving. And so I took over the role, and I've been there. It'll be 5 years in June, and I'll be in the position 4 years in April. So that's how I got my start in healthcare administration.
When did you graduate?
2013.
Hello, I'm Tommy Haggard, CEO of Bluegrass Community Hospital in Versailles. And I graduated an MBA from Midway, I can't remember the year, maybe 2013, 2014. I can't recall. It was right before or right during the time they were moved from college to university, so whichever year that was. But I grew up on a farm in Liberty, Casey County, Kentucky. And when I went to UK, I graduated with an education degree. I taught chemistry and physics for a few years at Taylor County High School in Campbellsville. I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to do or not. Really liked it. But I saw several colleagues who had been in that field for a number of years. Some wished they had tried something different, but felt like it was too long. They'd been in there long enough that they didn't want to turn back. So I thought, I better figure this out on the front end pretty quick. So anyway, I came back to Lexington and was taking some classes and wanted to work. So I took a job with Manpower, a temp agency, at Samaritan Hospital. I just pulled supplies off the shelf. And not long after that, they had a purchasing agent position that they had asked me to come back and take. And so I did that. And then after that, there was a material supervisor, which is a supply room supervisor position, became open, and so I took that. And shortly after that, went to Georgetown as a materials director, and then they had a leadership program, became assistant administrator, and then COO, and then CEO at Bluegrass. So much like you, it was just putting yourself in the right position to get there, because I really didn't start out in pursuit of healthcare. So that's kind of how I ended up where I am. And I've been at Bluegrass for about 8 years. At Georgetown, started that in 2004.
I'm Tanya Cox. I'm the Regional Executive Director for Christian Care Communities. I oversee 2 campuses, the home place at Midway and Bridgepoint in Brandon Crossing. And I think there's a common theme here. So I went to Transylvania University, graduated, did not know at all what I wanted to do with an undergraduate degree in psychology. And kind of the sky's the limit. And I knew I was going to go to graduate school, but just started job hunting, and there was a position available through the Alzheimer's Association at the Best Friends Adult Day Center. And my grandmother had dementia, and I thought, well, I can do that. I think I can do that. And it's one of those things of being open to what you don't think you would be doing. And I got that position, and I worked there as activity coordinator. And in about a year, they offered me the manager position. And I was going to graduate school at night to get my master's in social work. For that, and so I continued to do that. And as part of the Alzheimer's Association, they were growing, and eventually I got offered a program director position, and then eventually became the vice president for mission and service, and took on a national role of developing programs and services across the country under the Alzheimer's Association. But got a little tired of being on the road and ready to make a change. And in 2011. The Alzheimer's Association was kind of getting out of the business of direct care and in healthcare. And that's where I got my start. That's where my baby is, the Best Friends Center. And so Christian Care Communities acquired the Best Friends Center, and I went with it and became their director for home and community-based services, developed adult day centers across the state, geriatric care management, things like that. Still on the road, a little tired, and in 2013 we broke ground for the home place at Midway, which is right across the street from here. And I was not a licensed administrator at the time, and they asked me to consider becoming a licensed administrator and being open and kind of appreciating that doors always seem to open when you do that, just like Tommy and Bridget. And so I took that and got it and opened the home place at Midway. So that's where I am now.
I'm Dina Warren. I'm the Director of Nursing for Bluegrass Hospice Care in Frankfurt. I, unlike them, knew exactly what I wanted to do when I grew up, and that was just be a nurse. I had no desire to go into management or anything like that. I just wanted to be a nurse. I started at the very bottom as an aide and absolutely loved it. Worked as an aide while I was going through LPN school. So I became an LPN, worked as an LPN while I went to RN school, and graduated in '98. I've had all different kinds of experience as a nurse, a lot of it in long-term care, and the majority of it now in hospice. But again, I didn't want to do management at all. I've been with hospice since 2003, left a couple of times, and both times I was in management positions at other places. So came back to hospice about 5 years ago, had been back a little less than a year, and they came to me and said, hey, our director of nursing position is open, we want you to consider. Absolutely not. That is not what I'm doing. I do not want to do that. But I gave it some thought, and I had held every other nursing position for hospice that there was. And so I thought, I'll give it a try and see how it goes. And I've been in the seat about 4 years, and I love it. It's an opportunity to give back to the community and support patients in a little bit different role indirectly, but I love it. So that's kind of where I am now, and I sort of have the spark to keep on moving, maybe. So.
And would you all introduce yourselves? You have a very big role in this.
I'm Charles Housley. I'm on the faculty here. I've been here since 2006. I always wanted to be a hospital administrator. I started out in a 44-bed hospital where we had to re-sterilize the needles and sharpen them with a hone, and all the packs were linen. That was back into the ages that I came up in. Then I went to Children's Hospital in Knoxville. From there, I got my bachelor's from the University of Tennessee. Went up to Xavier and got my master's. Did some. Then I went to Columbus, Ohio, did my residency there, and I spent 24 years running 2 hospitals there in Columbus. I went from a resident to the chairman of the board, which was very interesting. I was a Baptist, and I ran a Catholic hospital. That was tough as nails. But I was more strict than some of the nuns were. Some of the nuns wanted to ease off on some things, and I couldn't, because I would not only get excommunicated from the Catholic Church, but be thrown out of the Baptist Church too. So then I went to Detroit, which was a real eye-opener. 6 hospitals in the inner city of Detroit. And we had 1 hospital in, out west. So I ran 6 hospitals there. Then after that, I came to ARH and ran that system for about 8 years. So I just got my 50th year as a member of the ACHE. I'm a life member, and I've written about 6 books in healthcare management, healthcare material management. I don't know if you have one of them.
Possibly. Maybe I'll check the names and see. It's been a long time
It's
since I
spelled
looked at that.
material though, IEL instead of IAL.
Right, yeah, that's right. And we had a sign on the door that had that, and you'd be surprised how many times people say, did you know that you spelled materials wrong? Well, actually, let me.
But when my book first came out in 1972, everybody was saying, you misspelled it. So I said, look in the dictionary, there's 2.
Yep.
So, interesting.
I'm Dr. Barbara Kitchen. I'm the Dean for School of Health Sciences, which includes nursing and healthcare administration. And I am lucky enough to work with both of these faculty on each side of me. I've been at Midway since 2001. Like Dina, I knew always that I wanted to be a nurse. So I went to Good Samaritan Hospital School of Nursing, earned my diploma degree. And then I went to EKU and got my undergraduate bachelor's degree. And then to UK for my master's and my doctorate. All the time working full-time. So it can be done. I know part of you, you're probably working full-time. It isn't easy, but it's very worthwhile. And I would like to add, I think all of you said it's being at the right place at the right time, but you can add to that being prepared for the job. Because you can be there, and if you don't have, most of the time, your education and the experience, especially the education, you won't be selected for the job. So I would say that education is critical. It opens doors that you probably haven't even thought about. I personally never expected or aspired to be an academic dean. In fact, a little bit about my nursing career, I was critical care for 20 years. And then when I got my master's degree, it was in psychiatric nursing. At that time, I went to Charter Ridge and worked there for 14 and a half years. And when I left there, I was CEO. So I had a variety of jobs: Director of Quality Improvement, Director of Clinical Services, Chief Operating Officer, and then CEO. Again, never aspired to be any of those, other than I just wanted to be a nurse. But you're there, you do a good job, you'll get offered a promotion. And so in 2001, I retired, I thought. I lasted 3 months and I couldn't stand being home all the time because part of me was missing. And that is being a nurse, working with people. And my husband at that time said, no, you didn't last 3 months. In 3 weeks, I knew you couldn't do it. So at that time, I received a call that I hear you're not working. Would you consider teaching a course for us? Well, that one course turned into full-time. I've been here 17 years and love it. I'm glad you all are here.
I'm Dr. Becky Stocker. I have been here almost 2 years now. I actually started my career as a certified nursing assistant. I did that for about 8 years. I started my senior year in high school. I got certified. I actually thought I wanted to be a nurse. Decided, I took a semester of nursing and then my husband ended up being transferred. So I thought, well, I'm going to try something different. Went into, I got my bachelor's in psychology, then went to get my master's in social work, all the while working in long-term care. And like you said, opportunities arise. I was asked if I would consider becoming an administrator. And I did feel like I could make a bigger difference in my staff and employees' quality of life and work environment. So I did that. I was a nursing home administrator, well, still am, but licensed for 20 years. The last 5 years of being a nursing home administrator decided I got bored being in the same facility. So I started to I would do consulting and then go into buildings that didn't have a licensed nursing home administrator that were struggling, either with survey issues, systems issues, employee turnover issues, and help them put systems in place and hire appropriate staff. And I have a passion for healthcare. For those of you who have had me as a professor, I got my doctorate while being a nursing home administrator, did my dissertation on CNA job satisfaction and turnover in long-term care. People kept saying, oh, now you have your doctorate, now you have to go teach. And I was like, I am not teaching. That was the furthest thing from my mind. But then I was asked to teach one course at the University of Indiana, taught it and loved it. So I have done that as an adjunct for about the past 5 years. And then this position, a position in Missouri came open. I helped them with their Masters of Healthcare Administration program get off the ground, helped design that, and then this position came open, and I'm here, and I'm glad. I am too. So, but love healthcare, and have been on the professional side, and now I'm on the family side, and it's just totally different.
All right. Well, if any of the students, if any of y'all have any questions at any point, you can ask them of the panel. And anytime you don't, I have some prepared questions. So, did any of y'all want to start with any questions for the panelists? Okay, great. Good, because they're prepared for my questions.
How many of you have had us as instructors? Any of you had me?
I did. I had you online.
That long ago.
That long ago.
And the student online is also raising their hand. What is your number one piece of advice for a student in their first semester, and what about somebody who's graduating in May? Any of you all? You guys got some?
I think so much of education, at least historically, in my experience, has been you learn a lot of book material. And you get out, and things aren't exactly like the book. And matter of fact, they're never like the book. You know, the book is a program theoretical situation, whereas real world takes a little bit of all of it, and it's messy sometimes. So first semester, I think I would try to talk with someone. He certainly has a lot. All three of these have a lot of life experience in the job. You see a concept that you're learning, I would ask for an example. How did this apply in your experience? Kind of tie that back. You'll find, I think, that it touches on it, and you'll use some of those concepts, but you'll kind of have to figure it out as you go. That would be the first semester. Last semester, graduating gives you the opportunity to go find a job. And the work doesn't start there. It actually does start there. The job doesn't start there. The work certainly does. There are a lot of people who graduate from college, and you're going to be competing with them. So don't take your foot off the gas. Look for opportunities, and you're not likely going to start out where you're going to end up. I was pulling supplies off the shelf in the bottom of Samaritan Hospital with a college degree and halfway toward a master's degree. And if I tell you the truth, I was thinking, not that I was as an individual too good for that, but I worked too much to be making $8 an hour straight time, no benefits, nothing, for how many hours I turned in on a slip of paper. And my dad said, son, you're better off doing something than you are nothing. And he was right. The other piece of that is to show up every day, and I did the very best I could at whatever I was doing. Because if you've got a good work ethic, you're reliable, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Everyone's had examples. It doesn't matter what you do. You can be mopping the floor, and if somebody notices that you're there every day and that you do it well, they're going to want you in another position. Now, like you said, you'll have opportunity for promotion. So that's a couple of pieces I would offer.
I think kind of tagging on to what he said, the first thing that came to mind was a degree doesn't equate experience. And so I think it's important, it's hard, but I think it's important to try to get experience while you're still in school. I worked as a nurse tech at a hospital while I was going to school, and I got some of the best experience just working with those nurses there at the bedside and observing and assisting with skills and procedures. So when I went through that in school, it wasn't completely foreign to me. So regardless of what the outcome is going to be, I think just trying to get that experience under your belt, and like he said, just doing the very best at what you can, at what you're doing all the time. And there's no shame in starting at the bottom at all. I'm very thankful that I started as an aide, and I am confident that it's made me a better nurse and a better supervisor too. So
Probably would dovetail on that. I think a lot of what they both have said makes sense to me. One is I think the whole what you learn in school and what the book says and how it gets applied are two different things. And when you work through school in other positions, it really allows your learning to go deeper, and it prepares you more for when you get ready to graduate. So that's a little bit of in the beginning and when you're getting ready to graduate. But being open to new experiences and being open to learning, I think is where you find that door that begins to open. If we get kind of blinders on to a path, sometimes we miss the opportunities that are to us. And I think throughout my whole career, there have been times where I thought I was going to go one way and then something else kind of steered me this way. And being open to say, you know what, okay, let me give it a try. And doing that ends up being, you kind of land where you're supposed to be, but you have to be open to doing that. And knowing that I agree that I think working in every position in every department when you become a healthcare administrator makes you a better leader because you understand better, and I think you're better at doing that. And I think so oftentimes if you're just kind of taking this straight track that I'm just going to go straight to the top, well, none of us, that's not how we did it. That's not how you guys did it. And you're stronger and better because you learn more, and you learn as you go, and being open to that.
I'm going to tag along with what all they've said, but definitely be, like when you first start out, don't be afraid to ask questions. I wish I had done like more job shadowing while I was in school, just, going and spending free time and seeing what all's out there, because I literally spent one day the entire time I was in college. I job shadowed at a dentist's office first thing in the morning, and then I went to a nursing home. And I'll never forget the day, because when I went to the nursing home to job shadow, I was with the administrator. We were going up, they were doing bingo. She was like, I helped take the residents back to the room. So I was pushing this sweet little old lady in her wheelchair, and I ran her right smack dab into the wall. And she said, honey, you don't have a license for this. And I was like, no, I don't. And then I was like, okay, I would still love to go into nursing home administration. I enjoyed both of my experiences, but somehow I ended up in oral surgery, which is dental. But don't be afraid to go and do the job shadowing, even if it's not required. Like spend your summer break just a couple of times. Most people are willing to have somebody come in and shadow. You're going to see what it's really like. You're going to see how hectic it is. But I wish I had done more when I first started. And then after I graduated, just don't be afraid to take chances. Apply for jobs that you think, oh, I'm not qualified for this. You never know. I mean, you may not have the experience for it, but people look at it. And then you may be overqualified, but still apply. And then just see what happens, because it takes you places you don't know where you're going to, like I said, you don't know where you're going to end up.
Brittany, can I ask you a question? Just as we're revising some things in the program, and we have added a practicum, actually 3 courses with a practicum component. Do you think that would have assisted you? You mentioned job shadowing in that, which this will do, and it gives people experience. I know we've had Marissa and Marissa have both been at Bluegrass, and then you have a student, and you've had 2 students. So, and the feedback I'm getting from them now is they're finding it very beneficial and exciting and getting their foot in the door. And do you?
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial, just because I didn't have it, And then the position I'm in now, my assistant is actually, she was a healthcare administration major. She went to Campbellsville University, and she got to do the practicum, where she spent time working in different hospitals and just different areas. And I think it is beneficial just because you get to learn more what healthcare is like. Because like they said, what you learn in the textbook and what you do at your job, they're two totally different things. I mean, we'll sit at work and we're like, if we only knew now, if we knew then what we know now, it's a wealth of knowledge. Like just being in there, just observing, seeing how things go. Because in my first 6 months of working in the office, I learned so much about hospitals, and because we work with the hospitals, so much about hospitals, so much about health insurance, coding, all of that. You learn so much more when you're in the office doing it.
There's another area that if you don't go and get that first job that you want, I would suggest you look at some of these fellowships. They give you the experience. I know UK has a real good one at 2 years, and I think the pay is like $53,000 per year. And some fellowships that you could get. And that will, if you do a good job there, they'll say, hey, I like that person, and you've got a job. So when I went to school, I had a year, 12-month residency, and therefore they had that time to see me, and I had that time to see them. So in this case, I would suggest that you not look at a fellowship, because those are very important, hard to get into too. You have to have good grades, and you have to have some references, but it's not impossible. In fact, my son took the residency. I don't know why in the world my son would want to be a hospital administrator, but he took the 2-year program at UK, and now he's over the operations at UK. So those are the kinds of things you need to look at too.
Did you all have any follow-up questions there? What piece of technology or research should these students be learning about and following to be prepared for what you all are experiencing and learning, or see 5 years down the line?
I think technology is wonderful and it's reality and all of that, but reading, just good old-fashioned reading, keeping yourself up to date on articles and books in your field is huge. I mean, technology is what it is, but just reading and keeping your mind stimulated and up to date on what's going on, because it's constantly changing. Healthcare, it just changes all the time. And so if you're reading and keeping up with that, you've got a step forward already.
I would agree, because I think any technology that's in place today probably won't be in place when you get ready to graduate. So it's that changing that fast. But I think one is being open, because there's oftentimes student rates for your industry groups, and joining those so that you can get their publications, you can go to conferences, because that's where your research comes from, and you're hearing and you're taking. It's interesting, because we've talked a lot about how the textbook doesn't always translate into the job. I think the education that you're getting is that foundational layer, but you take that deeper by applying it, and you apply it by being around that, by reading, by learning about kind of what the real stuff looks like. So I think continuing to do that. So I have that question. I thought, I don't know, but I think you guys are probably more poised for technology than I ever was. I mean, I think we were talking about when we went to school and get a word processor, which I don't even know if y'all know what that is, but but that you're coming up in that and being ready, and so I think it'll change as you go, but keeping yourself open to the changing trends, because healthcare constantly changes, and it's hard even when you're in the profession to keep up. So if you start the practice now, it'll help.
Yeah, without a doubt, I can't really point to a piece of technology because whatever I reference will be out of date soon. But yeah, keeping up with the industry trends. Every piece of technology still goes back to the basics. I mean, Excel spreadsheets may change, PowerPoint may change in how they deliver. You maybe do fancier tricks, but it still comes back to to the nuts and bolts types of accounting principles and the things that they apply. It may have a different interface or look prettier, but those basics. But just keep up with technology would be my advice on the technology piece. Try your best to keep up with what's going on in technology.
I agree with all of them. On a daily basis, I use Excel. When I was in college and I took the computer course, and you learn how to use Excel, PowerPoint, Publisher, all those, I kind of like blew it off and didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I use Excel on a daily basis, and I've had to relearn how to use Excel because I didn't pay attention. And it's, as a manager, my doctor and I always want to look at numbers. We want to put the trends in our practice. We want to see how things are going. And I use Excel all the time because it just makes your life so much easier. But definitely keep reading. But don't blow off your computer courses either. Like, pay attention and keep up with Excel because it changes all the time. But it's probably the most useful application that I have on my computer next to email and the internet.
If a student wanted to follow in your footsteps, what should they start doing tomorrow to get started?
And open yourself up to opportunities that get out there. I mean, your education is all, you can't just have it be in school and in class. Be a CNA, work in the industry, try different things and open yourself up, because that not only gives you skills and gives you that experience, but I think, Charles, you said references are huge. And you know, Tommy said, you're going to come out, you're going to be competing with every other graduate, and you need people to help you. And you do that by proving yourself even while you're in school. Do it now. Make your relationships. Get people who are believing in you and can help open doors for you. Because if you wait until you graduate, you'll be behind. Other students are doing that. They're making those connections.
Start networking now. Like, join the student organizations, join the American College of Healthcare, with the full acronym for it.
Executives.
Yes, join that. Start making connections. Go to the offices. Introduce yourself. You know, go wherever you want to end up. If you want to end up at an office or where you think you want to end up, because it's going to change. But go to those offices and just start. You know, ask them if you can have lunch with them. Just get to know them, pick their brains, learn as much as you possibly can while you're in school, and then try to figure out, job shadow, like I said, try to figure out where you kind of want to end up afterwards, and then work towards that goal.
Yeah, you know, especially you probably heard of a standing start and a rolling start on the card. You know, if you 0 to 60 time, whatever. If things move so fast out there, there's so much going on. I mean, we were talking about earlier that how much we get inundated every day with email. That really doesn't even figure in what your job description is or the interruptions that come along. So there's so much going on. Time management is so critical. So if there's an empty position that you're hiring for, it's going to move fast. And I don't mean they're just going to hire the first person, but it's going to move fast. There's not going to be time to get to know you or for you to establish those things. You want to come out with a rolling start. And I think a lot of that has to do with the organizations, the shadowing, the connections. Cannot overstate relationships and connections. Cannot overstate.
You'll have a lot of experience working with doctors too. And I worked with the Generation X. Those are the guys that wanted to come in at 8, leave at 4:30 and make $500,000 a year. Today, there is a new one, and it's Generation Z. And those are the technical people, which you probably are. And everything is done, and I know my friend over there, everything is done on computers and anything else. They're very interested in the technological world. So, and you're probably seeing that now.
So this one is going to get a little bit more on the personal experience. What was the best day of your professional career, or what was the hardest day of your professional career? You can pick one, or you can do both since you just have two great stories.
I'll go first. I think the best day of my professional career was actually opening Home Place, because it's the first of its kind. It's the only one of its kind in the state of Kentucky. it was 16 years in the making by an amazing group of folks. And to finally see that come to fruition was powerful. And to be part of it was amazing. And to have that opportunity to do that. I don't really know what my hardest was, but it was probably the same day. Just starting from scratch, building from scratch, and setting it and going. We had to reinvent the wheel because nobody had done what we did here. And we got a lot of tools and resources from colleagues across the country, but that was also really hard and kind of getting that into operation and in doing that. And we've been open for 3 years, and I keep saying, that sounds like a long time. We're still learning. We're still adapting. We're still developing new processes, and we're still getting smarter about it. So I guess it probably might have been one of the things.
The worst for me is not just one experience or one day. It's the management of people.
Yeah.
It's just challenging. You have all different personalities and experience and needs and desires and wants, and just trying to juggle all of that, trying to be respectful of them as individuals, but also keeping the organization's best interest in mind. So when I first took over the job, we ended up having to terminate like a couple of different employees, within my first few months, and I thought, there's no way I can do this. But to see things turn around once you get rid of those bad apples, so to speak, and see, how things can improve after that, I was like, that's why it's necessary. The best moment is not anything earth-shattering at all professionally, but I went out to do an admission on a woman who was dying of cancer. She was in her 50s, and when I got there, she was really familiar. I couldn't figure out why, and as we talked, she had been the nurse that had done my discharge teaching with my first baby, and I was terrified to take that baby home, and she was absolutely wonderful. And so visits down the road, we had just a wonderful connection at the bedside. And as she was dying, I was holding her hand, and she said to me, "You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing in this world." And I thought, wow, what a trade-off, She had given her time to me, and now I was able to give back. And it just sort of kind of finalized the idea that, yes, I absolutely am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So
I think my worst day, and it was a very long period of worst days, when I started my position, I went from being my coworker's coworker to being my coworker's manager. And it was so hard because for 6 months we went to lunch together, we talked, we laughed, we talked about what we didn't like about the practice, how we didn't like that this was happening, and then roles reversed and I was in charge and I was having to say, no, you need to put yourself on up and you need to do your job. And it was a hard transition because I had to let 2 of the girls that I was really good friends with, I had to let them go because once I got in the management position, I saw that they weren't what was best for the practice and they were actually hurting us. So having to let them go and then learn how to build a role of being in management and then how to figure out like the boundaries of being a manager and still being their friend was really hard because they didn't want to listen to me. For the longest time, it was a long, probably 1.5 years. And I feel like now, 4 years later, I'm finally just getting to the point where I feel like I know what I'm doing. And there's only one employee that was there when I started that's left. And we've been through a lot of turnover, and turnover's hard. But at the same time, it's rewarding now because I see that the staff that we have is staff that I've hired, and our practice is so much better off than what we were when I first started. And it's just rewarding to see, and makes for a good day to see that I have a group of employees that come in and work, and we get our work job done, and we have fun, and we can laugh, and we can go out to lunch together now, and there's not the friction that there was when I first started.
Yeah, I can imagine that's great validation to hear someone tell you that when you're probably a little unsure yourself, but sometimes there because you want to do more. Without question, people be about 90% of your pleasure and about 9% of your pain in the workforce. I've struggled with questions. What's your best, favorite? Those superlatives. I had a lot of wonderful days, and most of those have involved people. I love it when someone writes a note in to say how well, share something that you did something well for one of their loved ones. That's the ultimate reward. We have received awards. One of my favorite awards that we got over the years was HCAPS Award. And I like that one better or best because it touched every single employee in the hospital, from the least educated, least paid to the highest educated. And I thought that took into place everyone. But yeah, the expectations are different for everyone. There's no one size fits all. And difficulty, I think, for any leader or manager is deciding what you're going to do with the position. As a manager, you're not there to treat people tactfully and with respect. But you're also there to do what's best for the organization. And that hurts sometimes. You have to cut into some relationships that you didn't realize that you were going to. And that's very, very hard. So my worst days have been those days where I've had to terminate a practice, where I've had to let someone go, whether the job didn't need them anymore or the performance was lacking. And it's really hard for me to separate myself out of that. I'm still struggling with that. And I'm getting better. I always hope I struggle a little bit. I don't get too cold with that. So I typically will stew over it for a while until I can get comfortable with it. My conscience gets out of the way that this is what's best. And once I'm sure of that, and we try to present it in the right way, and if it has to be a separation, then you do that. And I found most of the time, if someone is in your organization that's not pulling their weight, you're not doing them a favor to leave them there. You're hurting the organization, you're hurting them as well because you're not allowing them to get into a position where they can be more successful. Sometimes the quicker you can make that separation and allow them to set themselves free and to go and pursue something, because the train gets going so fast. It's not going so fast for you all right now. But once you start a family and you start having bills and responsibilities, it's hard. Your time gets so limited. As you get on this train that's moving, you don't want to be on there, but you're holding on and it's going so fast you don't feel like you can jump off. So sometimes you have to help people off the train because they feel like I can't give a job up because I need a paycheck next 2 weeks for the next one. I've got to kill one. Sooner you know it's right that you can help them off the train, a gentle nudge and a soft landing. I think everyone benefits. The organization certainly benefits. And most of the time I've seen that the individual will benefit from that way.
Okay. So a lot of you all have shared that a lot of what you're learning is things that you've learned on the job. And it sounds like management is a very common theme of what you're getting. Two things. One, what sort of professional development do you think our students could be doing now to prepare for that? And two, where can they be getting that in your opinion? Like where would you like to see, if you were in their situation, where would you like to see them go and seek that education / what associations do you think that they definitely need to look up today? Big.
Well, I think your leadership here at the school does a good job of trying to create opportunities for you to go into healthcare settings. And that's I try to appreciate what they're doing because it's tough. It's tough for them because I'm sure that most everyone that they approach wants to help. Sometimes it's hard on the other end too, but they want to. And so please don't give up on those because when those opportunities come around that they will want. I'm an old, school teacher. I love to have that opportunity to do those things. But you never know what's going on in different situations. So they're doing a good job of creating those opportunities for you. I think, and I know the College of Healthcare Executives is a good one that you're a big advocate of. There's any more out there in the cloud. There's so many trade organizations and trade journals. I wish I could remember the stats on this, but if you want to know something, read 5 minutes a day. If you want to be, good at it, read something about it 30 minutes a day. If you want to be proficient at it, you need to read in that field an hour a day. Now, those numbers aren't accurate, but you see what I'm saying. So a lot of it you can do on your own, but still there's no substitute for. I'm a question asker. I love to ask questions. I can know 90% of something and not feel like I know any of it until I get that one little 10% that I can't put it all together. That's the cornerstone for me. Until I can get that, I understand it, but I can't accept it. And so use your faculty. Man, I tell you, they will not be here if they weren't really concerned about you. So use them. They're a great resource for you. Sure.
I think some of those are such soft skills, and they get learned and developed over time. And after you've done it, and after you've done it a few times, and after you've reflected and said, I kind of wish I'd done that differently, or that kind of thing. But I know for me, I've been very blessed with 3 amazing mentors in my life over the course of my career. And all of them invested in me, and all of them taught me something different and new, but were really somebody I could go to and say, how do I do this? How do I, and having that person. And so I think looking for someone who can be a mentor and can do that, because that's the stuff that you got to process through. You got to talk it through. You got to ask those questions. You've got to say, how could I have done that differently? And giving them, letting them give you feedback. But those, because I think it's hard to learn that. It's not taught in a textbook. And I think you can go to classes, you should always know your HR laws and all that kind of stuff. That just gets, that gives you the leg up and a foot up. But when you're sitting across the table from a staff member and you're delivering something that's difficult, that just comes with practice, and that comes with talking it through with somebody. And then that comes with reflecting back and saying, could I have done that better? Could I have done that differently? And having somebody to bounce that off of. So I would look for a mentor in your life. That's somebody that you can really ask that question.
I agree with you.
I was just going to say that's exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I have a coworker, not a coworker, but we work with her frequently. She's a general dentist. She works at the general dentist office. But I call her multiple times a week to ask questions. Like this week, we had a patient that was a foreign exchange student that needed to come in for their wisdom teeth out. Her mom and dad isn't here to sign the medical consent, and I was like, we can't do surgery. I don't have medical consent from mom and dad. We can't do this. So I called her, and she stepped me through what I needed to do because I hadn't encountered that. And I call her when I'm having a bad day and I need advice. And I call her when I have a good day, and I'm like, hey, this is what happened over here today. And you bounce feedback off of each other. You just find somebody like that to help you learn, because there's stuff, I don't know that there's things you want to prepare for it, but you can't fully prepare for things until you actually experience it on your own.
And even if it's the same experience with a different person, it's different. I find myself still, my dad has sort of been my mentor as far as management of people. He was not in healthcare at all, but he did HR and management for 45 years. And so I still find myself thinking, okay, what would Dad do in this situation? What would he tell me to do? And I do that with other folks too, who have really poured into me professionally. And so I think it is important to have those people that you feel comfortable just saying, this is what I'm facing, and I need help. I need support. There's no shame in that at all. I pick my phone up on the regular and call other directors of nursing and at other sites and even other organizations just to bounce things off of. So I agree.
Last minute, kind of hit our time limit. Thank you all very much for spending your time with us today and pouring into our students. It's so valuable what you all shared today, and so I really thank you all for doing that. And thank you for allowing me to film you, without asking your permission ahead of time. So that's great.
One more thing I'd like to say that I've made such a mistake of through my career is being afraid and thinking that I had to be right. And I don't mean I'm right, you're wrong. I mean, without throwing an idea out there, it had to be right or it had to be a good one. Risk aversion is the worst thing in the world, right? I have cut my legs off so many times for being shy and not wanting to be wrong. There's no better time in your life to be wrong than now. You're fresh out of school. No one expects you to have all the answers, but they're going to see if you're proactive with something. Doesn't have to be right. I don't just throw out something ridiculous, but throw out ideas. What about this? Because a lot of great ideas have come off of something that, well, we can't do that, but I like where you're going with this. Don't be afraid to be wrong. The biggest mistake I've made, and probably the biggest one I still make, being afraid to be wrong. It's okay. Somebody's going to catch you if you're wrong. And they're not going to say, well, they're ridiculous, because there's been a lot of, in our company, I've seen people that have thrown out ideas. I thought, man, really, I don't know about that. But undoubtedly, they're the ones who have moved, because they may throw out one idea that don't work, but because they're swinging, they will throw out 3 or 4 that don't work. The person that sits back there afraid to swing the bat, they put their destiny in somebody else's hands. Don't be afraid to be wrong. It's okay. Earth's not going to fall off its tilt if you're wrong. You won't. Be surprised how often you're right.
There's another point of this that I try to advise all of my students to, they ask me for references. So I say, okay, there's a job opening in Indiana. Oh, I don't want to go to Indiana. I want to stay here in Hazard, or I want to stay here in Plattsburgh. You got to get over that if you're going to get the big jobs. Did I want to go to Detroit? No. No way. But if the opportunity's there, you've got to take it. I bet you, I don't know about this group because I've talked to her. They want to stay in Kentucky, and I wanted to stay in Tennessee, but I didn't, and that made the big difference. So go where the job is that you would like to have.
Yes, pearls of wisdom to share with your all's next generation of coworkers?
I think it's an incredibly exciting field, and I think it's changing constantly, but there's always going to be people to take care of, and it's an industry where there'll always be something new and different, and that's exciting. And that story right there, you get all this changing field, but you get the power of wow, right? Because you're making a difference in somebody's life. And sometimes I think we forget that. You can get in different levels of management and you sometimes forget that. And in some businesses, you don't get that. You get the cool technology, innovation, and you also get the good feels.
I'm a hands-on manager, so when I took the job, I said, I cannot absolutely give up patient care 100%. That is not who I am. So I intentionally get out in the field to see patients, but it's super useful as a manager to go behind my clinicians and see their patients and either see what a wonderful job they're doing or areas where they can grow and improve. So I love the balance of being able to have those experiences at the bedside with patients who are receiving our care, but also managing our folks who are consistently providing care.
Some administrators are afraid to make rounds. They're afraid they'll run into somebody that wants something or a doctor that wants to have their ear for an hour. I've always made rounds, and I tried to make them when the doctors were there, 6 o'clock in the morning. And that is a world of experience.
We're smaller, but I don't want my girls to feel like and it's girls because that's all that I have right now. My doctor's a guy, but I don't want my girls to feel like they can't come to me and that I am above them. If they need help in the back, I don't care to help clean a room. I don't care to help set up the instruments. I don't care to help assist in the surgery. But I think just getting in there and being available and letting them see that I still truly care, and it helps you learn as a manager what truly goes on behind, like in the office while you're at your desk. is you've learned so much being in there, and the patients see it too when you're back throwing your hands in too to help.
I'd rather have an appendectomy as to go to the dentist.
Yeah, people don't like to see it. They don't like to see us at all.
I wasn't for sure where that was going.
Oh, yeah. This will be good.
Well, thank you all again for your time. Thank you all for coming in. Thank you, students.
Thank you for having us. Thanks for lunch.
You're very welcome. There's more, so please take some to go with you. And again, thank you. And I want to honor your time.
Well,
I
thanks
need
to
you
the
guys
students.
need to shadow.
I think this has shown a good proactive step. We're talking about maybe being here.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Definitely.
Thank
Keep up the
you all.
good work. Thank you.
Person.
Thank you.